All right, now let's dive deeper into the framework portion of the case interview. So the framework is really important. I think, first of all, it's worth talking about frameworks that you should avoid. And then I'll talk about later on in this course about the frameworks that we should be employing or suggested frameworks for business problems. So the reason why I talk about frameworks we should avoid is because I've seen some frameworks floating around online which probably are not ideal for people looking to land a job in consulting. These typically have three shortcomings. The first one is it's not mutually exclusive. And this basically means if you follow this framework, you might not have a very clear discussion, you might end up repeating topics, and that's going to cause a lot of frustration for both you as well as the interviewer. Second thing I've noticed is many of the frameworks are not collectively exhaustive, which means that it's only going to tackle one portion of the case. You're only going to find a subset of the potential answers, and therefore you might miss the crux of the case, the solution that the interviewer is looking for, or the set of solutions they're looking for. And the third one, which is probably the most common issue I see, is that the framework could be not problem-centric. So by this, I mean that it's a descriptive framework that you use to understand a company or use to understand their business model, but it's not a framework that allows you to dive deeper and deeper to find out what is causing a problem and how can we fix it. So that's very common as well. And I'll give you some examples of frameworks that are like this. So the first one is a SWOT framework. If you're studying business or management, you'll have heard of this before. Very classic business management textbook kind of framework. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That's SWOT. And this is an example of a framework that is not problem-centric, right? So what am I finding out from my strengths and weaknesses? Maybe I know that this company is very strong in selling, premium luxury branded items, but it doesn't help me understand if they're, losing money in this segment or another segment, right? So it's describing the company, but it's not unpacking a problem. Second one is Steeple. Again, a business management type framework that basically unpacks the market behind a company. So it looks at the market from like social, technological, legal, political factors. So that's really interesting for understanding a market, the market dynamics. But again, it's not collectively exhaustive, because after I've looked at this whole framework, I understand very well how the market is, but I don't understand anything about the client's business model. So that's also a framework that is very common in management textbooks, but we should be avoiding for the purpose of a case interview. 3Cs and P is another framework that I've seen floating around online. This I don't think is a management textbook kind of framework, but it's something that I've seen for case interviews. So I think this is a slightly risky framework that we should avoid. Basically, 3Cs and P stands for, if I remember right, customer, competitor, and something, and then P is product. Maybe C is for company, yeah. Customer, competitor, company, and product. So this is a nice, messy kind of way to look at things, but the problem with it is that it's not problem-centric. So again, if I have a problem with this client with profitability and I use a 3Cs and P framework, then I have great insight into how this company is positioned, how it operates, but it doesn't help me dive deeper into the source of the declining profits. In fact, 3Cs and P is one of those frameworks where, it's very easy to apply, but it's very hard to get actionable insights out of. So I would suggest, instead of using something like 3Cs and P, we would use some of those elements of thinking, like the 3Cs and P elements, but work it into other frameworks which are more purposeful. Last one, Porter's 5 Forces, another management textbook kind of framework. Again, it's very descriptive and it's not problem-centric. So for these reasons, I would avoid all of those frameworks. At the end of the day, when we're thinking about frameworks, think about yourself as a future consultant, right? If you're working in a project and your client is paying you $1 million a month for a strategy project, they would not want to see a management textbook style framework. It has to be something that is tailored to the problem and specific to their needs, right? So that's what we want to demonstrate in our case interview as well. It's our ability to break down that specific problem into the most relevant components. All right, so bear that in mind as you design your frameworks going forward.